saw Hendon kind of got thrown in there. What do you recall about that game, and kind of how can you just talk about his growth since then?
Yeah, similar to what we talked about at the beginning of fall camp, Hendon's a completely different guy. His confidence, his fundamentals, his development since that point, he's a completely different quarterback from mental side, physical side, the entire aspect of playing the position, and that's why you've seen the success and the growth, kind of using that game as a jumping off point from last year.
A couple of things. Joe Milton, 8 out of 9, 113 yards and a touchdown. How would you assess the way he played?
He played extremely well. Hate to use the word flawless, but he played extremely high level out there. It gave us a bunch of confidence. It's with the transfer portal and all that, it's hard to have two high-level quarterbacks, and Joe showed us that we have two very good options at quarterback, and we have a ton of confidence playing him.
What impresses you most about Pitt's defense?
Extremely aggressive in the way that they play. They're sound. They play within their scheme at a very high level, but within that, they play extremely aggressively every single snap, extremely physical. You're going to have to show up and take everything that you get in this one.
Joe, back to Hendon, with his development and the things that he does better now, when you guys are discussing game plan and what he can execute, how much is that opened up in the options you can give him and want to call with him as your quarterback?
Yeah, with Hendon, he's at the point right now, the way he's playing, you got an open book with him. You can call it. You feel comfortable. He'll operate anything you put him out there. And the other thing is what we've talked about on his confidence side of it. He will now let us know if he's like, hey, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't like that. And we know if he's saying that, then it's gone. He's not just saying it because he's uncomfortable or he's worried about it. He's like, nah, I don't like this. It doesn't fit. I don't like how it's timing up. Cool, it's out. So we have that kind of bond and rapport now where we can call anything. He trusts us that what we're putting in the game makes sense. And then if it doesn't work for either one, we can pull it, which makes it on our end a lot easier to game plan on the front end.
Back to last year's Pitt game, Hendon just comes in right there in the second quarter, kind of on the fly. Back to your conversations with him, what were those like right within the game when you knew he had to go out there? And how condensed was the playbook and the options with him on the fly in that game?
First question, the conversation with him was just like, hey man, like, whenever you're the backup quarterback, I experience the same thing. You're always one play away. So it was like, hey, knew this was a chance. Like, here's what we're doing. Here's what we're seeing. Go take it. And we didn't have like a separate game plan between him and Joe. We had what we had, and we called it, and we're basing it off what the looks we were seeing. So that part, there wasn't much of a difference, and it was just really the conversation. You can't make it too big of a deal. This is always an opportunity in football that this could happen. Here it happened, and go play.
Wes?
Joe, you just said a second ago how with Joe that there's maybe no such thing as like a flawless game, but it looked like maybe in the first half Thursday, just a couple of throws where Hendon maybe looked like the rhythm was just kind of getting its feet wet into the season, or however you want to call it. Did you see any, I don't want to call it rust, but some of that stuff that you'll maybe want to be a little smoother late in the year?
Yeah, I'm guessing you're talking about the couple high balls that he went early. It was just a couple mechanical things. His base got wide and he caught his toe cleat a couple times and sailed it. Usually stems from first game of the season, trying to play maybe a little too fast, like try to get the ball out on the edge right now, calm it down. And we actually worked on it during the couple off days, and then he's out there on the field today and he was ripping it all over the field. So wasn't uncommon. It was just something that we had to see, correct, and move on.
Jimmy?
You talked about how aggressive Pitt is. I wonder how important you think the run game is to go against the defense if it is that aggressive and physical.
Yeah, the way they're designed is they're designed to stop the run. That's what they pride themselves on. With everything you do running the ball against them, they try to make it tough sledding. You can't turn it into an air raid game and just drop back and throw it 50 times. But they're going to put everybody in the box. They're going to try to stuff the run game and force you to do it. So we have to have a good scheme, and then really just you got to move bodies up front. It is what it is. It's still what this game comes down to is blocking and tackling. We do that at a high level, we should be successful.
Mike?
Yeah, Joe, you backed up a pretty darn good quarterback in college.
He was all right,
give you the ability to maybe relate to Joe on a different level? How have you seen him take on a mindset, and how have you been able to help him with that?
It is. It's a tough spot to be in because you have to prepare as the starter with, a quarter of the reps that the starter's getting as it should be. He's the one that's taking the field. He's got to get the most. He's done a really good job of making sure that he is mentally focused every single time we take the field, and he goes through his calls. He makes every call even when he's not in the game. So he's really embraced that, okay, I understand because it happened to him on the other way of how quickly this can switch. So he's always ready to go, and that's why I said on the front end, we feel confident rolling him. We don't have a separate, okay, if Joe's in, it's this. If Hendon's in, it's this. If for whatever reason he's in there, you're calling it and you're rolling. And that's what he's earned in the way he's prepared.
Vince?
Joey, I know they didn't have the biggest sample size, but can you hit on the other quarterbacks that got a chance to play? Taven, Gaston, and Nate.
Yeah, with the young guy Taven going in there, the main thing is it's tough going in there in that situation. Is just trying to operate under the lights. You want to call everything the correct way, stay in your reads the correct way, and there's always the freshman hiccups which are in there. But what I like about Taven is his best practices in fall camp were in Neyland Stadium. He went out there and the moment wasn't too big for him. He's the gamer. That's the type of guy he is. That's what I liked about him in the recruiting process, and you saw that on Thursday night as well. And then Gaston and Navy went in. We had the fumbled exchange with Navy in there on the snap, but we saw what it was, corrected that, and all those guys had a great camp. The guys that were here had a great spring, and we trusted them to go play. It wasn't just like throwing a dog a bone. Like, we trusted those guys to go play because they know our offense. They're dialed into what we're doing, and they went and they played pretty well.
3 more questions. Adam, Wes, Jimmy.
You said Joe was almost flawless, really good. You also complimented Hendon. How comfortable is that to be able to praise both of those guys and know there's not who's going to start? How comfortable does that make that room?
Yeah, it's extremely comfortable in there. Joe and Hendon are really good friends, like legitimately off the field, extremely close friends. So they're happy for each other when they're doing well. You don't have Joe in there saying like, oh man, I would have made that throw. You don't have Hendon in there when Joe does something well saying like, oh man, I hope they don't. There's none of that. Hendon's our starting quarterback. He's our guy right now. Joe is extremely happy for all the success that he has, and whenever Joe's in the game, Hendon's extremely happy for all the success that Joe has, and that is a culture that Coach Hype has tried to cultivate from the day we got there in the entire locker room, and it's absolutely permeated down into the quarterback room as well.
Joey, it looked like, at least most of the time, Ball State in that game was kind of content to sit back a little bit, sort of make y'all, not give y'all those 3-4 play scoring drives that you had so many times last year. Is that a good thing sometimes for your quarterbacks to have to kind of go face that and, maybe not push it too much and maybe, because sometimes you got to be more patient and kind of work your way down the field?
Yeah, I think it's a good, like whenever people are playing the drop 8 stuff, it's a good lesson in having to shop windows, to work bodies. There's just bodies everywhere. You got to feel space. That's what we're all based on, is feeling space anyway. So it's a good thing for him to see that early in the year, because someone else is going to try it at some point. Don't know who it's going to be, but it's going to show up again. With that said, we're still going to attack. We're still going to dictate the way the game's played on our side of the ball, regardless of the style of defense. So they were playing soft. It's like, cool, we're not going to do anything that's foolish and just try to launch it down the middle of the field. But they were giving us the short stuff, and we were taking that thing all night. So whenever they're giving it to you, you just keep taking it and you move on down the road, and eventually you get somebody in a one-on-one situation, like what happened in the fourth quarter, and we hit Jimmy on the dig rolling in there, and he goes and gets off the field. So you still have all the same opportunities. It's just him understanding the type of game it's going to be, and you can't get bored with routine success. You got to keep taking what's there and keep pushing it aggressively down the field.
Finish with Jimmy.
Joe, you mentioned that last year when Milton went out with an injury and Hooker took over, that you had the same game plan for him. Does that still hold true? Do you have the same plan for him, or do you tweak it a little bit to try to take advantage of maybe their different skill set?
Not really. I mean, we're rolling out there with what we got. We were really confident in the plan, and it stems back from the first question about what do you have in with him. Like, we're wide open with him, and we feel like Joe can operate in the same way. So we're not having to say, like, well, this guy can do this, but he can't do that. So if he's in, we can't call this. But if this guy's in, we can call this. There's none of that going on. We're calling it and we're playing it because we have confidence in both those guys to take over.